Welcome, fellow people, to the Conceptual Compendium. This video type focuses on video game concepts and ideas, whether ideas or trends in games themselves, or notions or stigmas around the gaming culture. I will guide you through this area of the compendium. Without further ado, my name is Jag, and this is the experience of games and why you need a video game backlog. A backlog can mean a variety of different things. Perhaps you have a list of chores or errands to do that aren't all that pressing. Usually, in my experience, the term backlog is used to describe things you should do, but expectations aren't that they need doing immediately. Now, of course, if a backlog gets too bloated, you can run into issues of deadlines and falling below expectations depending on the context. With the basic definition out of the way, I would like to bring video games into the concept of backlogging. When video games first started making their rounds in popularity way back in the prehistoric time, the 70s and 80s, I doubt anyone would have had a video game backlog. I mean, why would you? If you wanted to play a game, you would either be able to play that game on a home console or at the arcade. If you didn't have access to a particular game, who cares? It was just a game. Games by design were mostly arcade experiences. They were games where there would perhaps be a screen or two you'd play in to get a high score. While some introduced groundbreaking ideas and mechanics that later became basics for modern games, most functioned to suck quarters out of your pockets. They'd entertain you enough so you didn't notice you were making the number of your bank account lower to make a worthless game score higher. For some games, not much has changed in that regard. Things, however, started to change when companies like Nintendo burst onto the scene with games like Metroid, The Legend of Zelda, and Super Mario Bros. They helped spearhead a trend of games being adventures, stories, fixed experiences where there was a definitive start and end to any game. It taught the player over multiple hours how to play in a game's world, and as the player progressed in skill, the world would progress with them. It was a design that focused on crafting a unique, never-before-seen experience. The game industry would continue like this, with exceptions with games like fighting, rhythm, and other arcade-like games. This trend, however, caused a problem. Games became a time investment. Whenever I'm feeling happy about my life, I always humble myself by the reminder that my time here on Earth is limited and a gift of God. And for some godforsaken reason, I wasted 100+ hours of my life on Persona 5 Royal. Humans are experiential beings. We're always looking to experience new things or re-experience the things we take pleasure in. Video games as an entertainment genre succeed so well because of the level of interaction one can have with any aspect of a game. You can experience a game's controls, gameplay ideas, music, visuals, and the endless combinations of those things. Naturally, there will be a lot of unique and diverse experience, which leads to another reality of life. I'm not sure if it's occurred to you, but there are a lot of video games out there, around 5 million plus. If each game took 5 minutes to play front to back, that would be close to 50 years, which, assuming you as an individual lives in the world, you'll need some kind of employment and sleep, which means you can't play all the games in the world. So, let's limit that number by only considering the decent games, or the games worth playing. Using mathematics and science, I can objectively, with 100% certainty, say that 1 in every 100 games made would fit this category. Lovely, so now we're only at half a year. Let's assume you can play for an hour a day, which means you can probably play all the decent games in 12 years. Unfortunately, most games are longer than 5 minutes, and by the time the 12 years has come and gone, there will already be more games to play. The unfortunate reality of mortality is that you have to choose which games to play. Video gamers over the years, in my observations and opinions, tend only to want the absolute cream of the crop nowadays, the 1 in 1,000. We as people have so many games and choices that it can feel overwhelming for what to play. This is where the backlog comes into play. The design of a backlog is to keep track of the games you want to experience. There are many reasons why something would make it into your backlog. For a game like Super Mario Bros. That helped save the industry from just being left as a fad in the 70s and 80s, people need to pay respects to the forerunner of the platforming games genre and the savior of the gaming industry. There are so many classic games that helped develop the gaming landscape to what it is today, and I think those games are something that all people should consider in their backlogs. For young gamers such as myself, we didn't grow up with Super Mario Bros. We grew up on new Super Mario Bros. There were 23 years of video game development between the NES Classic and what is now a DS Classic. And that DS game is 17 years past. Soon that number will climb to 20 years old in the next few years. Video games are still growing and evolving as we speak, and the difference in technology and cultural landscape is staggering. For many gamers, such as myself, it's essential to look at the history of video games in games like Dragon Quest, Mega Man, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Doom for the origins of genres, subgenres, and game series. I have so many games that I feel it is my sacred duty, in a certain way, to experience them as someone who professes himself as a gamer. Some games also find their way onto backlogs by their distinct and timely personalities. You aren't necessarily playing them when you boot up a game like Shinobi 3, Balloon Fight, Nights into Dreams, or Star Wars 1 Episode 1 Racer because they revolutionized the game industry. Sometimes they radiate something specific about the time they were released. When you play a game like Nights into Dreams, there's an aura around it that feels so Sega Saturn. Sometimes games can be time capsule games that when you plug them into their original console and play on a CRT TV, you can feel the experiences of a person who bought a Saturn in '95, which I can only assume was depression. Sometimes, however, you put games on your backlog simply because they are a part of your favorite series. I didn't choose to play Sonic 06, it was an obligation. Yes, sometimes the fact that a game has your favorite character comes from a beloved series or an influential developer or publisher is enough reason to check a game out. I have never really played a Resident Evil game before, yet there's a good chunk of the games on my backlog. Of course, they're in my backlog because of the critical reception and innovations they made to the gaming landscape. I also want/need to play them because it's Resident Evil. Now, games like Resident Evil captured the hearts and minds of many because of their quality and innovation. However, there are still games and series where, from my perspective, they didn't necessarily blow gamers out of the water with their critical reception or concepts. Yet, they still sold well, and the series continued to thrive in the gaming marketplace. Of course, games also appear on one's backlog simply because they're good simple fun. Take for example, Horizon Zero Dawn. This came from a developer known for making the Killzone games, which were primarily first-person shooter ordeals. Horizon Zero Dawn was vastly different from the studio's previous work, so this game was a brand new IP from a studio that didn't make the kind of game genres Zero Dawn ended up being. While it got tons of press and advertisement because it was a blockbuster PS4 exclusive game, there was no reason to expect anything from it. The only Killzone game I ever played was the PS Vita Mercenaries, which the developer didn't even do. I had no connection to the developer. I had no way to have any reference to the series, as at the time, it was just one game. And I didn't have much experience or opinions on the gameplay style or genre. I ended up looking at it because I heard that it was polished at the very least and did an excellent job as an open world adventure game. When I did end up playing it on the PC, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. It didn't have any mind-blowing concepts, and I don't think it evolved or revolutionized the genre by any noticeable margin. Sometimes a game is just more of the same genre you enjoy, or it's a solid display of what a genre is about, and that's enough to enjoy yourself. Finally, there are the games where the gameplay isn't necessarily the tether to the positive experience itself, but rather the realities revolving around the gameplay. A game like Overwatch or Rocket League is pretty repetitive when you get down to the very base of the game's code per se. There are maps you play in and repeatedly do many of the same things. These games wouldn't be all that fun if it weren't for the multiplayer of the game. The interactions between real people make unique and dynamic gameplay, and a game's value and positive experience are tied to people and community. This, of course, can work against a video game when you don't have any people you know or like to play with. Human interactions and multiplayer can also breathe life into games that would be a satisfactory experience on their own. I won't find myself playing Minecraft single player anytime soon, but I always jump at the opportunity to play some multiplayer with my friends. There are also other games like rhythm and fighting games where it is all about competition and getting a higher rank against others worldwide. You can dedicate your life to an insane song or grind out combos of a single character just for the feeling of skill and accomplishment against others or your past self. Without that drive, things like fighting games have little to no reason to exist after understanding all the technicalities. The experience comes from mastering that which is seemingly impossible. I don't have this drive, as I'm usually content with just finishing all the songs in a rhythm game or grasping how a fighting game works before leaving them for another experience. Though, in some sense, all games require a fundamental drive to finish a game or progress enough in skill to play them through to the end. I find games like rhythm and fighting games to be commonly static in many areas of the gameplay, which requires more of that mastery drive. Again, any opinions about a game's worth, ingenuity, and artistic values are all up to the experience of the person who plays it. Two people can simultaneously play the same game in the same setting, in the same general culture, and have differing opinions about games. Imagine what would happen when somebody in 1996 plays Mario 64 for the first time, compared to a person like me playing the N64 version on the Nintendo Switch through the Mario 3D All-Stars collection. I've heard many people state it as a masterclass of game design and their favorite game of all time, while my opinion would criticize it and say that it's a good game, but heavily flawed and dated. Neither of us is lying or being disingenuous. We experience the game differently. Because of this fact, my backlog will undoubtedly look different than another person's backlog. As I and others develop and grow in this ever-changing gaming world, we will get to know what we like to experience or don't like to experience. Some people look at the Soulsborne games and see an adventurous and rewarding challenge. I see that as a liability for me to hurt myself or others in a fit of rage. I still have a game like Dark Souls on my list so that I can still attempt to try out and finish a game like that, but I'm not putting every one of the From Software's Soulsborne games just because of their popularity or reception. However, there are games from RPG series, for example, where I put the entire series on my list before I even played a game. Do I know I'll like them? Well, I'm not sure. but I'll likely find them good spending of my time from what I've heard about the games and their critical reception. Again, sometimes you can put a game on and realize 20 hours in that you aren't enjoying yourself and that it was a bad pick. A healthy person would turn the game off and either never play it again or give some time before returning to it. Let's just say I'm not a healthy person. When I start playing a game, I will not stop until the credits roll. There are some upsides to this approach to gaming. Dedication to one game can help you finish games instead of haphazardly starting a game, getting bored at one section, and then starting another game. And then another, and another. I used to struggle with this a lot. I had started 4 RPGs at one point in time, where I feel just one RPG can be a struggle to be manageable on its own at times. One of the reasons I switched to this style was so that I was able to finish a variety of experiences instead of starting up a game, getting a couple hours in, then forgetting about it. One of the issues is that I've played games through, even though I hated them most of the time playing the game. Whenever I've finished a game, I always get back to my backlog and see what's left. And right now, there are around 800 left for me. Yes, I personally make my backlog into a reality through the power of Microsoft Word. I've listed all the games in my backlog, organized by console and in alphabetical order. I use how long to beat to estimate how long it will take me to finish the game. I put far too much time into this for what it's probably worth, though I do like compiling everything into a list so that I don't forget about anything or have difficulty deciding what to do. I also have a related video game completion list where I place the games I've played and how long it's taken me to beat them. This is far beyond what I think an average person should do regarding how they approach a backlog. I do it this way because I like the structure with all the information I'd want to play a game right at my fingertips. To give you a taste of my backlog, I will take one game out of each console/platform and show it to you. The Ultimate Doom, because Doom. Ninja Gaiden, Alex Kidd in Miracle World, Donkey Kong 94, Earthworm Jim, Shinobi 2, Mega Man X, Panzer Dragoon Saga, Tomb, oh my bad, Tomb, Jet Bros, F-Zero X, Wario Land 3 because 3 is funnier than 2, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, this game, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that, Golden Sun, Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, Jet Set Radio Future, Shantae's Risky's Revenge, Ys 7, Ratchet & Clank, Tools of Destruction, Sin and Punishment, Star Successor, Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance because I hate my sense of self-worth, Blaze Blue Chrono Phantasm Extend, Xenoblade Chronicles X, The Last of Us, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, and Tetris Effect. As some of you may have noticed, not all of these games are all that easy to get nowadays, which leads me to use alternative methods. Judge me if you will, but there is no way in hell I'm paying $2,000 for 15 hours of a game that I might enjoy. But perhaps all of this is a discussion for another time, in another video. Now, I've clarified why anyone considering themselves a video game enthusiast should consider making a backlog. There are so many games, and I think people owe it to themselves to research game consoles and their libraries to find out what games might help them appreciate the roots of the series, genre, or game mechanics, and just enjoy themselves. I would suggest making a backlog of a console/platform you have access to, and going online and looking into what your consoles may offer. Another idea would be to pick a favorite genre and look through the ages of what the genre has had to give to the gaming scene and landscape. I would suggest going online and looking at lists made by various sources. If a game interests you, look at a review to better understand it. Make a mental or physical note if you think you'd appreciate the game. This little bit of structure in choosing your games can help produce clarity and responsiveness to experience games and grow an appreciation for games, artistry, and value. Video games are some of the most unique entertainment experiences we have access to today, so why not intentionally try games out? Thank you for watching the video. As always, this channel is relatively new and is emerging and evolving into something at a quickened pace since I'm still not 100% sure how to do any of this. Because of this, I appreciate it when viewers comment with affirmations of what was good, suggestions about what could be done better, and criticisms of what was, quite frankly, awful about the video. Without further ado, this is Jag, and thank you for attending the Conceptual Compendium. I hope you have a lovely morning, evening, or afternoon. Take care.